Hello and thanks for tuning into another episode of Form Scale on IrishRacing.com. It's the week of the Punchestown Festival, so we're going to be reviewing the first 3 days of action. And I'm delighted to be joined by Johnny Ward to look through the first couple of days. I think we're going to talk through the races that'll be on RT in the first 2 days, and then just the Grade 1 action on the Thursday because we've no declarations in there yet. But Johnny, thanks very much for coming on again. We were on earlier with Vincent, but really exciting card at Punchestown. Strong entry so far. Strong declaration, sorry.
Very much so, Emma, yeah. And the big thing for me, anyway, on the first couple of days as we record this on Mondays, that we've each way betting races across the Grade 1s, which isn't something that you can rely on at all now. And that's great to see for bookmakers, for punters. You know, a lot of short price favourites. People generally don't really want to back short price favourites. So there's a nice angle into the races. And the death of Shishkin, obviously, is the sad point of the week going into it. I was really looking forward to seeing him running, but it can certainly make any winner Nicky Henderson has throughout the week all the more celebrated, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. He was definitely one of the ones I think he was really adding to that kind of fascinating Gold Cup. But yeah, Nicky's sending a couple others over, so I'm sure everyone will be cheering him on. He's a bit of a crowd favourite, and Punchestown has had good success there in the past. But we'll drive into Tuesday's racing anyway because we won't dwell on it too long. But the 340 is the first race we'll have a chat about. I think it's the first race being shown on the telly, so it's a Grade 1 novice hurdle, kind of a replay of the Supreme, I suppose. Over the 2 miles, we've got the Supreme winner here, Slade Steele. Skipped entry, came straight to Punchestown for Henry de Bromhead and Rachel Blackmore, and he is reopposed by second in the Supreme, Mystical Power. He went on and won an entry there a couple of weeks ago for Willie. And a couple of others there. Asian Master was placed in the Supreme. Firefox ran a great race in entry as well. Johnny, do you think Slade Steele should confirm the form of the Supreme Novice Hurdle, or has the drying ground maybe brought others into this race?
When I was in Punchestown last weekend, and when I was coming back that day, I was walking along the canal here near, just walking home, and it was lashing rain actually, and I was trying to get out of the rain, but somebody shouted at me across in traffic, and it was Brendan Sheridan, and so I crossed over to chat to him, and I said, what's the ground going to be like? And he said, we might need to water. And I thought that was incredible, really, because of the rain we've had. It's just fantastic to see the ground drying out. But that's a long way of saying I really fancy Mystical Power here on the base of that ground. You know, the horse looked like the winner jumping the last at Cheltenham, and then Slade Steele, I suppose, outstayed him really, and was much stronger up the finish. But like Mystical Power has obviously gone on to entry and win since. He showed a good tough attitude then, and with his pedigree and that speed that he showed in winning previously over the course of distance, I definitely can see him reversing the form. So I think he's a great chance, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I think jumping the last, you kind of would have said he was all over the winner. Yeah, softer ground brought Slade Steele into it. I didn't really think coming into Supreme, now he proved me wrong big time, that he was kind of had the class for a 2 mile novice hurdle race, had been beaten by Ballyburn a couple of times. But yeah, I can see Mystical Power reversing it as long as the entry race hasn't taken too much out of him. Be interested to see how Tully Hill runs here as well. Obviously blew out completely at Cheltenham. We were both at Willie's there a few weeks ago, and he was saying maybe he left the race at home. I think he's quite hard on himself in his work at Close Sutton. But interesting one here is I think Asian Master for Tom Costello riding him. He ran a massive race in the Supreme, I thought. Finished 4th or 5th, I think, that day. He should come on for that as well. But yeah, I can see Mystical Power backing up that entry success here as well for JP. You'd imagine the drying ground with his pedigree will suit him big time. But we'll go on to the next race then, the 4:15. The handicap hurdle over the 2 miles. Really interesting race again. 4-1 Daddy Longlegs, 10-1 Toto 2, 11-1 Ballystock, who won this race last year. Was obviously very good second in the Scottish Champion hurdle last weekend for Willie Mullins. Really competitive looking 25 runner handicap hurdle. Look, I suppose Daddy Longlegs, one of the most interesting runners in the field, and it has been priced up as though like one kind of doing handstands in Ludlow last weekend under Patrick. Didn't have a hard race that day. Obviously had disappointed in a few graded races. Do you think he's probably the one to beat, or would you be looking elsewhere, Johnny?
What a class race, Emma. Like Brentford Hope, if I remember, I think Brentford Hope was favoured for the Derby at one time. When I think Richard Hughes trained him. Jamie Spencer, I think, might have been riding him in those days. But here he is, Harry Durham, having him over top weight, and lovely to see this. I'll probably keep the stakes a little bit low on this. For all that I am going with Daddy Longlegs, you know, when he bombed out at the Dublin Racing Festival, I completely forgiven that on that sort of ground. And prior to that, it was the same sort of story. When he went over to Ludlow, he was 1-7, and Pat just had to stay on board really. But all in all, getting in off 135, given the reputation this horse had, and he is an each way price, definitely good enough for me as Paul tries to narrow that gap of 7 behind Paul Townend.
Yeah, for sure. It could be kind of one of the ones to get Paul off starting for the week. But I don't know, day long legs, I suppose maybe the drawing ground probably would help him, like you said. It was a nice ground, I suppose, when he made a kind of a big impression on debut in Thurles. But I might take a chance on Toto 2 for Gavin Cromwell and Sean Flanagan. I just thought he showed a bit of boot there on stable debut, winning in Navan. Lightly raced 7-year-old. I'd say they taught a bit off, and he went over to Cheltenham for a grade 2 novice hurdle before he came to Gavin Cromwell's yard. And I suppose the bare form of that win in Naas, like a rating of 133 might have seemed a little bit harsh. I think the second horse might have been 120-ish, and the third horse kind of around the same. But Stoke the Fire was fourth that day, and kind of won again, another one of the Mullins ones who won hard, held under Patrick off a rating of 130. So I just think he might have a little bit more boot than Day Long Legs. I think Paul Townend mentioned about Day Long Legs that he might even prefer a step up and trip. So maybe Toto 2 might catch him out in the finish there with nice sort of. He showed that in Naas there as well. So I think 8-1. I think maybe 10-1 with some bookmakers mightn't be a bad price about him at all. But the next race on TV then is the Goff Land Rover Bumper. We won't go into this one because it's a totally guessing game. I think only one runner in the field has won a race, and most of them haven't even won. Look, I suppose the winner, put it in your notebook and follow it for the future, but I don't think we have much insight into this one, Johnny. So it'll go on to the 525, another cracker, the Champion Chase. Dino Blue in here, market leader 2-1. We've got the first two from the Cheltenham Champion Chase, Captain Guinness and Gentleman to Me as well. Who would you be going for in this one, Johnny?
Yeah, it's funny, like the first two from the Champion Chase, but it kind of feels like this is like the Air Silver Cup kind of in terms of who should be here. John Bon, obviously, El Fabiolo, Fernie Hollow being here as well. If he weren't injured, would have a serious say in it. And maybe another couple of horses that run over further, if they drop back and trip, I suppose they might have some sort of chance. I know you're a big Dino Blue fan, Emma. Maybe there was a suggestion that she was ridden a bit too patiently at Cheltenham, but I don't feel she really had any excuses the way the race panned out. And Banbridge for me is quite interesting here. He just did not seem to cope at all with the ground at Cheltenham. And this is 2 miles and 98 yards. He's going to need the 98 yards, I feel, because he's a horse that is likely a little bit better over further, but he does jump really well. He's fresh enough coming in here. And the ground is the key to him. As an each way price, I like his angle in the race. I'd be keen enough to take on certainly the first two in the Champion Chase. And Dino Blue, I think she might be a little bit vulnerable. She's rated 158. That doesn't entitle her to win this.
Yeah, and cheap pieces on first time there for Banbridge is interesting as well. I'm sure, did he win? Like he won a good novice chase over 2 miles in Cheltenham, I think, in his novice chasing season. Ground will be a massive help to him. I suppose he hasn't really had it all year long. But yeah, I'm firmly in the Dino Blue camp here. I'd say I'm probably one of our biggest fans, and I think she should just confirm form over Gentleman to Me and Captain Guinness. She's beaten him a couple of times already this year. Look, Banbridge could be the joker in the pack, I suppose. Him stepping back and trip on ground he likes, cheap pieces on. Interesting to see how he'll be ridden, but I would be with Dino Blue. I think she is just the classiest mare in the field, and they'll find it hard to give her the £7 here. But we'll go on to the next race here, the Dooley Insurance Champion Novice Chase. I got Spillans Tower in here, coming off the back of a great grade 1 win for Jimmy Mangan at Fairy House. Are you a big Spillans Tower fan, Johnny? I'd imagine this step up to 3 miles will be right up East Street.
It's a hard one to know, Emma, because he's caught between a few rocks here, and this is one race where we might not have the 3 each-way places come post time, because there's a thought out there that he would want a bit of an ease in the ground. But having said that, you wouldn't say he's guaranteed to get the trip either. He's on the pedigree side of it, he's not really bred to get the trip. Now I feel he probably will get to distance. I'm going to chance him if he does run. There is rain forecast, so will be rain between now and race time. But I'd be surprised if they don't give it a go anyway. When he ran earlier in the season at Punchestown and won, it was soft ground in January. It's not going to be radically different to that. It's going to be really safe ground after all the rain we've had. It's not going to be anyway too hard for these horses, I feel. And with rain coming, this would give them a good indication as to where they are trip-wise. For me, Embassy Gardens, was very disappointing at Cheltenham. Maybe he doesn't really like the place. And of the others in the race, sort of Monty Starr is rock solid, but he's kind of priced accordingly. And Lance Tower has been one of the stories of the season for me. I hope he runs. If he does run, I'd probably make him favourite with that turn of foot he has over this trip.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I'd be firmly in his camp as well if he shows up here. American Mike, I suppose, an interesting one. What do you make of him? I suppose he's kind of in and out. It's hard to get him right, isn't it? Like, he was disappointing there in Cheltenham. I know plenty were fancying him that day, but like on his day, he's probably up there with some of the better ones. But it's kind of hard to catch him on the day, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Like he's obviously he beat Tactifile earlier in the season, and people would probably knock that a bit when they shouldn't. And Tactifile might have needed to run, but it was a hell of a performance. And then at Navan, I mean, he beat Nick Rocket and Manila Kakuna, a form that's been outstandingly well advertised. But either side of that, I mean, he bombed out at Limerick, I thought, and worse again at Cheltenham. So I know Gordon Elgin said it, but he trains the horse. I certainly can't get my head around him. For all that, it still wouldn't surprise me if we run a big race here.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, I was looking at it this morning. I was kind of coming around to fancy him, but geez, like, it's hard to. I suppose, like, at his very best, he'll have a go crack at it. But like, I think the likes of Spanstow will be a much more kind of solid proposition. I suppose Monty Starr, another one, like he had a good race behind Tactifile, but probably just maybe below that real Grade 1 quality. And you'd be hoping Spanstow might be progressing into kind of maybe one of the top staying chasers, maybe if he stays this 3 miles for next year. So. But that's I think that's all the TD races, the RTE races we'll call them, are on the first day of Punchestown. We'll ask you for a nap of the day to wrap up the first day. Johnny, what's your best bet?
My nap is actually Mystical Power in the first of the Grade 1s. That race will take place at 3:40, and this is all ground related. My one concern is that he's trying to dance the 3 dances of Cheltenham and Punchestown and Aintree, but couldn't, he's still relatively lightly raced, and love his attitude.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully ground won't be too bad. I think it's dry here now at the moment. So they'd be hoping for kind of nice ground in the day. But my nap of the day will be Dino Blue. So hopefully a big day for JP McManus on day 1 of Punchestown. But we'll go on to Wednesday's racing there now. I think the first race that's being shown on RT is the 3:40, the Louis Fitzgerald Hotel Hurdle, another cracker. We've the prices just came up. I was saying we've no prices for this one. I was getting ready for it, but we have them now. And Mr. GIF, I think, is a fascinating one around here. Another one, went from the Supreme to Aintree and back here for Punchestown, in here at 11-8 for Woody Mullins. The highest rated horse in the field. The conditions of this race kind of are in favour of him. I think you can have finished in the 1, 2, or 3 of a graded race. He was obviously 4th in Aintree and 5th in the Supreme, so probably wouldn't get much of a better horse sneaking in here under these conditions. No flies on him. I suppose another one who was highly rated earlier in the season has been disappointing a bit since there, though. And I think catch your eye in here, Johnny.
I'll take a chance of No Flies in him. I'm giving him one more chance. The one behind Tully Hill I thought was fine, and he was weak in the betting that day. And he was a horse. When he won, that was the first race, I think, at Leopardstown in the entire festival. He beat DB Cooper, who was really well regarded. And, he was sent up 3-1 in a 28-runner race. Like, put all that together, having won a point to point. And you're like, this is going to be a proper good horse. I'm willing to hope that it might have been the worst ground that was somewhat against him. He's really disappointed at Fairyhouse the last day. But this is a race that's pretty much made for him. Apart from Mr. GIF, he just fits in nicely because of those kind of restrictions that you mentioned. And Edward O'Grady's horses have been in good form. I'm willing to give him one more chance.
Yeah, look, I suppose kind of tactics might be interesting as well. Like he was really impressive first day out, but he jumped out and made all that day. Then they've been kind of riding him a bit more conservatively, I suppose, the last 2 times. So that'll be interesting to see. I'd probably just be sticking with the Mullins runner here. It's probably boring enough. But look, I might have small question marks about he's finishing in like a graded contest, but I think back in this company he shouldn't have much trouble coping with them. He's rated only 3 or 4 pounds higher than No Flies on him, but I think he's probably achieved a bit more throughout the season. Tagman, probably an interesting one there for Henry DeRom at D2A prices, though. I think he was actually second to Grange Clare West in this last year. Probably starting off his summer campaign, aiming towards something like Galway later on in the year, but he could run a big race at a big price, but I'd be fairly solid enough on Mr. Giff in this one. I think he should take a fair bit of beating. But we'll go on to the next race there, the 4:15. It's another novice hurdle, grade 1, and this is a real cracker. There's 8 declared here, but we've got plenty of Cheltenham Festival winners, Aintree Festival winners. Stellar Story obviously won the Albert Bartlett at the festival. Dancing City won last weekend at Aintree, winning another grade 1. And Better Days Ahead won the Martin Pipe as well. So cracker, plenty in here. You can have a big shout for Johnny. What would be your selection in this one?
Yeah, back me or sack me him as a. I just find this all very intriguing. I don't know was there any story behind the naming of the horse. But you know, Emmett Mullen's running this lad after like just running in a 2x3 bumper at Cork. We've seen before with these connections where they can kind of target a race. Fairnilly was a good example of it. And you know, they target races with horses maybe that are out of the novice stakes or whatever, but this lad going straight into a 3-mile grade 1 novice hurdle, having only run a point to point in a bumper, and it's not like he's looked absolutely outstanding or anything. Is really interesting, and I'm minded almost having a few quid in him, just as a saver against the other horse in the race. But of those in the race, it's tricky, to be honest. Like Better Days Ahead looked like he was kind of crying out for a step up and trip when he won at Cheltenham. Stellar Story, I love that attitude at Cheltenham, but this will be a much quicker race. I think it will really testing ground, and maybe go back with High Class Hero. Like I loved this horse's progress going into Cheltenham, and when he won at Thurles 2 runs back, briefly came off the bridle, found plenty very quickly. Sean O'Keefe is actually riding him, and he's not a bad pricer because obviously Paul Townend not riding, and I'm willing to forgive him Cheltenham. It was his first big blip, and that's nowhere near his form. So really interesting race. I think you could make a case for nearly all of them in some shape or form.
Yeah, you're good for sure on that. Emmett Mullins one, definitely want to keep an eye on there. Kind of a strange route into it, but with Emmett, you wouldn't definitely not be ruling it out. I'm going to stick with Better Days Ahead here. Like I think the Martin Pipe has a good record of producing. The winner of this race has been a kind of a few in recent years. Galloping Deschamps, Kilolta Vic, and I'm sure Champagne Classic all went from the Martin Pipe on to win this grade 1. Like you said, he kind of for a step up and trip. Probably would prefer a little bit more cut in the ground, so kind of maybe waiting to see how much rain comes might suit him a bit better. But yeah, like you said, a really competitive affair. It's kind of hard to be overly strong on anything in there because they all have kind of interesting angles about them. Plenty of grade 1 performers, and like you mentioned, the Mullins horse could be absolutely anything. But we'll go on to the 4:50 then, the champion bumper. Jasmine DeVoe in here. Look, I wasn't really going to say too much about this one. Again, Jasmine DeVoe, Romeo Coolio, the 1-2 in the Cheltenham champion bumper. Redemption Day has been running in bumpers for a few years now. Would you think the Cheltenham bumper horse should come back and do it again at Punchestown?
I'm not mad on bumpers, Emma, but this race for me has an awful lot going for it, because to have the top 2 with Cheltenham taking on horses that are very well regarded but didn't go to Cheltenham, mainly William Money and Shuttle Diplomacy, just makes it a race full of talking points, really. And Shuttle Diplomacy, his performances have been excellent so far. I'm willing to give him the nod here. I'd say he might get 16-20 to 1 on the day because of the opposition. John Gleeson in the place. He looks to have a lot of class, this horse. Brian Cooper felt he was a grade 1 horse after he worked, but before he ran at Limerick. And it was really atrocious ground. There should be no issue with better ground for this horse, given his pedigree. Fascinating runner for me.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm sure Brian actually he posted a video of him riding work up the cover or something. But yeah, he was really good winning in Limerick. I'd have question marks about William Money now, to be honest. I think the form of his bumper wins kind of fell apart slightly. Like State of Chance went to Cheltenham and disappointed. Forgive him for that, but then he went to England and disappointed again at Ayr. I think he ran when all those Mullins winners went over. He's winning at Nace as well. I don't think any horse has come out once out of that race either. So maybe slight question marks about him at such a short price. But yeah, it's a fascinating race. I wouldn't be a big one for betting in bumpers now, but I'd imagine that Jasmine DeVoe, they seem to think a lot about him in the Mullins yard, so it wouldn't be surprised to see him back up that Cheltenham win again. But we'll go on to the big one, probably. Look, the race I'm kind of most looking forward to all week, I suppose. Plenty are probably the same. The Gold Cup. Last year we had a massive upset in this, Fast or Slow, getting the better of Galloping Deschamps. Getting the vibes, it wouldn't be such a big surprise for him to do it again, even though Galloping Deschamps has gotten the better of him in the last few meetings. Fast or Slow just seems to excel at Punchestown, I suppose. Carrick Ramble, another fascinating runner in there. For Lucinda Russell coming over after unseating earlier earlier on in the Grand National, and Uwick is shown in here as well for Shark Hanlon. I suppose getting his ground for the first time in a while. What's your take on the Gold Cup, Johnny?
Well, what are the vibes you're getting? Tell me about that.
The vibes on who?
In relation to Galopin Des Champs, because I'm willing to take him on. Why would you take him on?
I'd be taking him on just because he's had such a hard year, like all year long. He's been to every battle, and like I know he won a couple of them easy enough, like the performance at Christmas, but like you'd imagine they'll have to start taking a bit of a toll on him eventually, and he kind of rode him so positively in the Gold Cup as well. Like, geez, like he'd be some horse if he can back up all those performances again. And Fast or Slow does so well in Punchestown. I'd probably be leaning against him, even though I am a massive Galopin Des Champs fan. What are you thinking?
Yeah, he's my lay of the week, Galopin Des Champs, like, because he was beaten in the race last year, and everything you said there, I feel that he's had a season that he'd be kind of up there with the Seas of Stars in his 3-year-old campaign, where he was asked to do everything and kept doing it right up to the end of the season. Extraordinary horse. But for Galopin Des Champs to beat a very good field here, including a horse that was well fancied in the Gold Cup, the third in the Gold Cup, and others as well, would be a hell of an achievement. He had a very hard race at Cheltenham. Like, he had a very hard race. That was his first time to go into the Gold Cup on ground that was that testing. And he, as you say, he's ridden forward, 22 fences, jumps. He was very good the last twice at Leopardstown, but race 5 of the season. And Willie would admit, there's not a lot you can do at this stage with a horse like that. You freshen him up a little bit, but you're not going to overwork him, because he was trained to win the Gold Cup. And he was beaten in the race last year, and the ground is coming to Fast or Slow's liking as well. So he's the one for me, although I do think Corey Cranmer is a fascinating runner. His Gold Cup run was really, really good. Wouldn't be dismissive of Hewick either on this ground. His King George performance was excellent. Gentleman's Game is 33-1. He was beaten 10 lengths at Angel. That wasn't a bad run, It really wasn't. Darragh O'Keefe was happy enough with him, and he's not out of it either. And I just, there's got to be a major chance here that Galopin Des Champs just isn't at his best, and I wouldn't be harsh on him if that were the case.
No, for sure. Jeez, like it's probably be up there with one of the best Gold Cup campaigns of all time if he can back this up, because he, like you said, he's had so many tough races coming up against kind of top horses nearly every time he ran. To be honest, I am a massive fan of him, but like I can't really see him backing it up here. I think Fast or Slow, just like even his record at Punchestown, he's beaten him the last twice, obviously this race last year, and then went on to the John Durkin, did the same thing. I think the drying ground will play to his chances as well. Martin Brazel will have him well ready for this. Like, he obviously had an easy enough race at Cheltenham, I suppose, unseating so early on. Everything kind of playing in Fast or Slow's favour here. And yeah, I'd be looking to take Galopin Des Champs on. I think odds on is way too short for a horse who's had such a tough campaign. So we're in the same camp there again. Hewick, I think Fast or Slow with his best will beat Hewick, and the rest of them will fall in line there as well. Corey Cranmer, good one in the Gold Cup, but I have maybe question marks about whether he'd be good enough to win a race of this calibre. So yeah, both with Fast or Slow there, so hoping for a big one for Martin Brazel again to do it 2 years in a row. But we'll go on to the last race we'll have a chat about then on the Wednesday. It's a handicap chase over 2 mile 4. James De Burley there tops the weight for Willie Mullins, coming here off the back of a brilliant one on the top one. Willie has a couple of them in here, I think 3 or 4. But it's good few Welsh challengers in this one. It's interesting to see Jet Toyle come over for Ryan Potter and Bill Baxter for Warren Gatrix, who I think unseated in the top one when he was sent off favourite as well. But any view on this one, Johnny?
Very tough, Let's Go Champ, the Mount of Rachel Blackmore. Henry mightn't have that many sort of well-fancied horses this week, but this horse is lightly raced. The last day he ran at Limerick behind Haranga de Thay, I was there that day, and Let's Go Champ was quite eye-catching. It was well-fancied 11-8 favourite. He finished second to Embassy Gardens the time before that, but he won his point on good ground. It's hard to believe how long he was off. Like, he was off the track for ages, and since he's come back to Henry, he finished third behind Tactical Move first time out, and that's certainly not bad form. And it's worth watching that run back at Limerick again. I'm not sure he would have been in love with how bad the ground was that day. They say Jeremy horses want soft ground, really testing. And he's going to be available at double figure odds here by the looks of it. I put up the favourite in the race a couple of times. James de Burley. He's not doing much wrong, but it's hard to believe he's much in hand at this stage off his mark. So yeah, I think Rachel could win this.
I was actually with you as well. I didn't have the prices when I was looking at this morning. I was surprised he was such a big price there, 12-1. I suppose a rating of 131 is kind of hard to see. He's only exposed, but he's a 9-year-old. But like you said, he's done so little running. I think he was second at the festival last year for mark of 125 over hurdles. You said handicap debut over fences last time at Limerick. Should improve for that. He'd be the one I'd be taking as well. Each way prices there, 12-1 looks pretty big about him. Against some horses who, like you said, probably could be getting fairly exposed at this stage. He doesn't have a whole pile of running, especially done over fences anyway. So yeah, off 10 stone 5, he'd be my bet in there as well. But we'll wrap up the Wednesday there. We'll just have a quick talk about Thursday. So Johnny, what would be your nap of the day on the Wednesday?
My nap of the day on Wednesday, we haven't mentioned him yet, or the race, is the first race, the 2:30 Walkaway Harry. It's the Adair Manor Opportunity Series final handicap hurdle, 95 to 123. And the ratings band them at the top horse is rated 112, and mine is rated 113. So £9 between first and 25th. So I suppose that would lend you to believe that this race has been targeted by quite a few trainers, because like for the ratings bracket and for a conditional to ride the horse, I'm sure there will be a couple lurking. But if there is a horse more interesting than Walkway Harry, I'd be surprised. Tongue Strap on for the first time, won a bumper at the festival last year, hasn't yet won a race over hurdles, but it was a lot more like it the last day. Philip Burns rides, he sneaks in bottom of the weights, trained by Charles Burns, and he gets better ground. If he's not laid out for this, I'd be very, very surprised.
Yeah, really interesting one. Obviously, with the son on board, Tongue Strap on, like you said, won at the festival last year. Beat some good horses as well, winning that bumper. I think Lecky Watson and Irish Panther and Dr. Eggman were a few of them in there. So yeah, big one there for Charles to keep an eye on. Like you said, probably being laid out for today. I was going to actually go fast or slow as mine, but just seeing the price there of Let's Go Champ, I might put him up each way. One of my better bets on the Wednesday. I think looks like a massive price there at around 12-1. But we'll just have a quick chat about Thursday. We don't have declarations here now, so I didn't really see much point going through the handicaps, and we'd be talking about a horse who wouldn't even be declared. So we'll just talk about the grade ones on the card. And the first one there is the 525. The Barberstown Castle Novice Chase, and Gaelic Warrior looks set to be showing up here. Johnny, I'd imagine he probably won't be beat if he shows up here. Obviously, Alette Tom did show. I actually thought he looked improved in entry, but he didn't really seem to be think so as much. He didn't really seem to think he underperformed in Cheltenham, but Gaelic Warrior seems to have his measure, I'd say, does he?
Rated 167, yeah, some rating for a horse as a novice. And I laid Gaelic Warrior at this festival last year, because I wasn't sure he'd get 3 miles, and he was brilliant that day over hurdles. And like, I'm still not really sure what this horse's best trip is. I'd love to see him go out and trip. Because if you stay and you have the speed that he has and jump as well as he does when he's going the right way, he's flawless really. But this race is tricky because it will cut up. Like Willie has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 9 in it. John Ryan has a 118 rated horse in it, and there are a couple of others that Philip Rothwell and Vincent Halley. They're definitely more than entitled to leave these horses in, because if it cuts up, you have a nice bit of prize money here. And I like the entrepreneurial kind of methods of these trainers. But Willie will ultimately have the decision making in terms of what will run in this race. Blood Destiny is a horse I like. I think this is probably his ideal trip. Brilliant jumper over the fence, but Gaelic Warrior obviously should win.
Yeah, for sure. I've a few of my double entry there, as I mentioned, Blood Destiny. I think he's got a few handicap entries as well. So yeah, Gaelic Warrior, if he shows up, he wins there. Interesting to see, does Alette Tom show up? If he does, he should run well. But yeah, can't see him reversing that form of Gaelic Warrior at all. Barring mishap like we saw at Leopardstown, I suppose, with Gaelic Warrior. But yeah, he should be winning really. We'll talk about the last race we'll have a quick chat about then is the 6 o'clock on the Thursday. It's the Champion Stairs Hurdle. Tiupu coming in here 5 to 6. He was beaten this last year by Classical Dream, but he was really, really good at Cheltenham last time, which is kind of justifying his odds-on shot here. Ground maybe slightly going against him. He'd prefer a bit of a cut in it, but probably, yeah, deserved market leader there. But same colour, same connections. Irish Point in there, 3-1. Brilliant second, I suppose, to Statement in the Champion Hurdle. Home by the lead there at 11-2, and Buddy to 1, 7-1. I think it's 10s bar those. Johnny, are you firmly with you, Boo, here? Would you looking to take him on at odds on?
I spoke to Gordon at the races on Friday. He didn't say much about Tiopu, other than that, because I still feel there's a little bit of a question mark in terms of his actual form, what his best ground is, and if he handles the ground here adequately, you'd imagine he should win. But I'm surprised at the price Buddy won is, to be honest, Emma, because he ran a real blinder at Ainsbury last year. There's an opinion out there that perhaps he got there a little bit too soon and the long kind of running. He led before the third last, but like he was far from disgrace at Cheltenham when he looked like he had lots to prove going into that race. I think they're going novice chasing with him, so I do wonder will he rock up in Galway or something like that for connections, or will they have bigger plans? But obviously, if I believe he's going to run here. If he does, Irish Point isn't going to run. Like I'd say, there's almost no chance he runs in this. And after that, they're really much of a muchness. Home by the lead for me. Would want softer ground really, and he's well exposed at this stage and can swim the odd disappointing run. So yeah, I at the prices I'd be with. Hoping that he runs now, I'd be with Buddy One.
Yeah, he should run a big price there, 8-1. Probably if he was from one of the bigger yards, might be a shorter price. So was Gordon saying Irish Point won't be running here? He's unlikely, is it?
Yeah, Irish Point is almost certain to take on State Man.
Oh, Grant. Yeah, no, I was going to tip Irish Point, so you saved me a bit of hassle there. Yeah, look, I fancied Irish Point, to be honest. I'd like to see them come up against each other.
I love that, Emma. Like to be honest, I after Leopardstown, I thought Irish Point was going to be the class act of the 3 mile division. Now if you were owned by somebody else, maybe it'd make sense, but I can completely see where they're coming from here. But Gordon is like, well, why not? Why give Stateman an effective walkover? Why not at least give him a race? And there's plenty of prize money for coming second. But for me, he'd be a better horse over 3 miles, and it's just that they obviously have the leading 3 mile horse in the division as it is.
Yeah, you can definitely see where they're coming from for sure, but it's just a pity that the 2 owners got the same owner ended up with 2 of kind of probably the top stayers. I think Irish Point's probably one of the most versatile horses in the country. Like he has to be being able to finish second in Champion Hurdle, and like you said, he stayed out. It was almost 3 miles in Leopardstown. I'd say he would have been really hard to beat if he was stepping into this 3 mile division. But look, if he goes to the face Stateman, he should run another solid race. But yeah, Buddy One could be the angle. So I actually backed him in Cheltenham and he ran a massive race. And it would be nice to see him run a big one for the Gilligans. Or apart from that, to be honest, I kind of find it hard to fancy anything too strongly in here. Kind of few has-beens, and yeah, Tiopu, so good at Cheltenham. Ground might be gone against him, but he should be too good for these. Look, we've only mentioned two races on the day, but who would be your better bet on the Thursday? It doesn't have to be from these two though, but maybe double up Gaelic Warrior and Tiopu for me.
Yeah, at those prices now, I'd go with Buddy One each way. If you're confident, anyway, confident to run the race, it's a great each way bet at that. Unfortunately, obviously, we don't have declarations for Anthony here, so I'd probably skip the handicaps for now.
Yeah, it was kind of a tough one, but yeah, we'll wrap it up there, and hopefully we found a few winners over the first 2 days. Anyway, the third day was a bit harder to preview without declarations, but thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll be back again later in the week. I think Don McLean is coming on Thursday to preview the rest of the week at Punchestown and a look at the Guineas as well. So thanks very much for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're going to have a bet at Punchestown, make sure to gamble responsibly because it's a very long week out there with lots of different grades of racing. So it can be tough. But thanks, Johnny, for coming on. And hopefully we found a few winners for the
Thanks, Emma.